Стаури одного. Умирать за криптократа, который за большую часть своего 30-летнего правления истощает богатейшую страну по национальным ресурсам и развивает буквально феодальную систему управления, уничтожая всю открытую оппозицию вместо создания нормального гражданского общества. И теперь рассчитывает на некую панславянскую внешнюю политику, последний раз провозглашенную царями в 19-20 веке. Я лучше выпью отбеливатель. Спасибо большое. У России одна из самых больших интеллектуальных эмиграций не просто так, и это причина – Путин. Story 2. Die in some rich old man's war? I'll burn my draft notice in the street. World domination power grab? Maybe, if the entire world agrees it needs to be stopped. Invade my home, where my family lives, where my friends live. The place that's only worth living in because we are free to be Americans? I'll put you through a meat grinder or die trying. I'm not submitting to a dictator. Story 3, no, and here's why. I was a kid in apartheid South Africa. At 16, we got conscripted into the South African Apartheid Army. If you were still at school or studying, you had to go after your studies. Luckily, while I was in university, apartheid ended and conscription was dropped. Others weren't so lucky and were forced to fight in a war they didn't want to and for a doctrine they opposed. So forget dying for any country or any politicians and their messed up beliefs. Story 4. I was born in Moscow. My Russian heritage is something I am extraordinarily proud of. That said, I would not fight in Putin's war. There's something to be said about his defiance to negotiations and insistence on bombing and attacking the innocent civilians. This isn't Russia's war. This belongs to him and to all the military leaders who obeyed his orders. Remember that the Nazis were just following orders too. There are no winners in war. He makes me disappointed to be a Russian today. On the other hand, the thousands of Russians who were arrested for protesting this invasion make me so proud. That's what being a Russian is about. Being brave. But it should never come at the cost of a human life. Story 5. In America, it's hard to die fighting for your country, as there are few direct physical threats like invasion. However, if it were to die fighting for the freedom of people and others' safety, I would be willing, as long as I don't die in some stupid way. Story 6. No, Colombia is beyond redemption. You just have to do a quick search on all the false positives, murders of social leaders, and people who have been killed in protests to realize that it's not worth it, and the corruption won't stop anytime soon. It's actually depressing. I will quote some articles below. The false positive scandal was a series of murders in Colombia, part of the armed conflict in that country between the government and guerrilla forces of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and the National Liberation Army. Members of the military had poor or mentally impaired civilians lured to remote parts of the country with offers of work, killed them, and presented them to authorities as guerrillas killed in battle, in an effort to inflate body counts and receive promotions or other benefits. While Colombian investigative agencies find cases as early as 1988, the peak of the phenomenon took place between 2006 and 2009, during the presidency of Alvaro Uribe Vélez. As of June 2012, a total of 3,350 such cases had been investigated in all parts of the country and verdicts had been reached in 170 cases. Human rights groups have charged that the judicial cases progress too slowly. A 2018 study claims a total of 10,000 false positive victims between 2002 and 2010. During 2020, approximately 305 social leaders and human rights defenders were murdered in Colombia. Since 2016, over 400 human rights defenders have been killed in Colombia, the highest number of any country in Latin America, according to the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Story 7. Nope. I would consider sacrificing myself for people, but I feel no attachment to a piece of land just because I was born on it or to the government that dictates it. Story 8. Hell no. My country tries to kill me financially if I so much as look at a hospital. If a nation can't take care of the well-being of its citizens, then it is certainly not a country worth dying for. Story 9. I have lived and worked in a dozen countries. I would not fight for any of them. I would fight to protect my family. I most certainly would not fight if I thought it was another United States engineered war for their profits, which covers about 99% of world conflicts since 1940. Story 10. I'm in Canada, so I will sick my beaver on you, cross-check you, then drink a good beer and eat some poutine. Honestly, I live in a place nobody wants to be, laughing out loud. Come take it if you have the courage. Winter is tough here, good luck. Story 11. Yes, as much hate as the United States of America gets. As a black man, I've faced my fair share of hardships, but this is my home. My greatest and best days have been here. I'll fight like hell and to my death for this country. Story 12. Wars are stupid. Dying for a stupid cause is stupid. If war comes, I will stay in my house. I will fight if the enemy comes to my door, just like I would fight anyone trying to mess with my things, local or not. Story 13. Depends, though I'm already in the service, so the answer is mostly yes. I'm willing to die for my beliefs and the desire for freedom and peace in the world. My assumption is that this question arose because of Ukraine, so here's my answer. I'd die for America if it meant protecting the Western way of life from an aggressor. I'd die for another country or people if it meant the same, honestly. It doesn't even have to be the United States. Story 14. No. Why would I die for wealthy individuals who won't even take mild pay cuts to help people in their own neighborhood? Why would I sacrifice for those who actively work to hold others back and undercut the poor to benefit themselves? If I die, we all suffer. I'm not protecting people who don't care about me and my community. Story 15. No. Honestly, I feel so disconnected from other people I couldn't get behind sacrificing myself to save others. This changes when I'm in love, and I'm sure will change drastically if or when I have kids. But right now, it feels like it's just me. What is there to die for? What is there to live for? Not suicidal by any means, but I don't feel much meaning in my life, so by extension, I don't think I'd feel much meaning in martyrdom. Story 16. No, it's not my country. I just happen to be born in a place that somehow has a name. I only have allegiance to my life and to my family. I would die for them, but not for a concept like a country. Story 17. For my country? Hell no. For my state? Probably not. For my county? Maybe. For my community? Yes. For my wife, my sons, my brother and sister, and for my dad? Absolutely. There is nothing more worth dying for. Story 18. Depends on the country. If it takes care of you and helps you in every way to succeed, then I might. But most countries leave you on your own if you have problems and ask you to die for them if they are in trouble. I would try my best to get my family out of there, but I wouldn't die for some land in someone's made-up games. Surviving is a priority. Story 19. Finn here. I have sworn to take arms to defend my country if needed. I intend to do so. Many commenters here say they would die to protect their family or community, but not necessarily their country. Finland is so small that I don't think there is a distinction in my case. Also, my country does not ask me to go die in a faraway land for obscure reasons. The reason to fight would be clear and my family would be in direct danger. Story 20. No, I would not. My country is led by individuals who have made careers out of never doing anything for the people. My country won't let me smoke a joint, have medicine that doesn't bankrupt me, buy a house ever, or get educated without a mortgage. Story 21. American here. Absolutely not. I'm nothing but a cog in the money-making machine. My country doesn't care if I suffer or die, so why should I care about my country? Edit. America is no better than Russia or China, just a different flavor of totalitarianism. Story 22. No, this country doesn't care about anybody but the wealthy in the United States. Now, if somebody tries to invade my home, you better believe that we stay ready. I'll defend my family and my home. But this country has never been there for me when I actually needed help. It has never done anything to make my life easier. All it's done is ask for more to help the rich pay less so they can all give each other our money. Story 23. And I wouldn't want to die for any country. We are all people at the end of the day. We are all the same kind of animal, but with an evil power, the brain. All the different ethnicities, languages, and barriers should have never existed. It's stupid to put one country over the other because some rich jerk wants you to. I would never kill a person for country reasons because I believe we are all citizens of the earth, not American, Russian, Ukrainian, etc. We just happen to live in different places. That shouldn't isolate us from the rest of the world. Story 24. Currently serving in the United States Navy, and although I picked the Navy because we are known as the Uber of the military, I would absolutely die for my country. But I understand the hesitancy from those who may have never served to not want to do the same because that is how I felt before I joined. However, the selflessness I have gained from the military and the ability to care more about the safety of the person next to me rather than my own, I can easily say I would die for my country. I do not know why or how it changed, but I would. Story 25. Not anymore, now that I have seen what the governments do to control each and everything in our lives. The misinformation, the artificial scarcity of necessities, and so on, that ultimately benefits those in power. I would rather die for the people I care about than for flags. Story 26. United States government practically works for corporations and the rich, and the rest of us just pick up their crumbs. No, I wouldn't fight. I'm already on the cusp of packing up and moving elsewhere just to make a point. Story 27. Before 2021, I would have in a heartbeat taken up arms to fight to defend our nation and its people, regardless, unless it was over something like oil again. However, in the past year, after observing how many people were quick to become armchair dictators and soft-spoken sycophants, no. What I saw this past year was an alarming shift in what I thought our social fabric was woven with, to what I realized might have been underlying threads of deep evil. A good percentage of my own community, friends, and family appear willing to throw people who wrong-think to the train cars. Like, extermination-level rhetoric? No, no thanks. They're not Americans. I can't abide or defend that. Story 28. Probably not. Now, if the Russians come knocking, I'll answer the door and put myself in danger of dying. But if God comes down from the heavens and offers me to trade my life for the eternal prosperity of the United States, I'd probably decline. Story 29. If a country is asking me to die for it, then I have to ask, will the person asking me to do the same for their country? I will not die for my land. I will move, I will live, and if things go bad enough, I will work in the background to make a new life for not only my family but others as well. Story 30. No, I will die to defend my loved ones, but I'm not going to fight anyone in a senseless war. I will never be an aggressor. I take the gun and turn it on myself before fighting as an aggressor. Story 31. If corporations are people, let's see them fight and get destroyed, and then I might consider it. Funny that the first time I'd be offered health coverage by my nation would be if I were injured in a war. Until our country fights to protect me, I'm not fighting to protect it. I guarantee that our politicians and billionaires won't be fighting anything. Story 32. No, not at all. Ever since I was born, they've been shoving propaganda into my head, lying about atrocities. Now, honestly, our elected officials are puppets to exploit the landscape and earth for economic gain, only to then price gouge consumers at every turn, from the housing market, our needlessly complicated taxes, and even our necessary healthcare and medicines. That's on top of the crimes of imperialism we've inflicted in the past and the effects of our racial history we willingly want to ignore. The worst part of it all is the lies work, and people believe them. My country is the drunk disgrace at the table of world powers, and we chug a beer and frequently shout about how we're the best. If you don't know what country I'm talking about, find some finger paint and do the math. Story 33. Die for these misguided people in the United States who have been literally destroying the earth? I would never die for my country. War is a literal game for them, and I would never play it. Story 34. From the United States. No, our country has lost its morals, and I find its advisors and leaders to be two-faced and influenced by corporate greed. Why should I die to help make the powerful more powerful? Any war America gets into is about money in some way or another. Story 35. We have millions of people who live in the United States and have spent half of their lives fighting for our government. They are mistreated on a daily basis and are now homeless, sleeping on the streets. Why would I die for my country? That sounds like idiocy at its finest. Story 36. United States of America. Not in a million years. Half the people of this country would gladly piss on my grave just because I do not vote the way they do and I am an atheist. Story 37. Not a single man who has died in combat since World War II has died for my country. They've died for McCarthyism, oil companies being the world police, defense contractors, and the people who would profit from them. Why should I join them? Story 38. Not America. The country does the absolute bare minimum for the people. The only time they say, "We are in this together," is when they want to start a war. Otherwise, it is go pound sand. Die for what? Insurance companies' right to extort sick people? The highest incarcerated population anywhere? The rights of white-collar criminals to get away with anything? Another tax break for rich people while my infrastructure crumbles? I would say the same thing to the government. They have always told us, "That sounds tough. Good luck." Story 39. No, I hate Joe Biden and I hate the two-party system. I hate that I get taxed heavily for being single and working overtime. I hate that my tax dollars go to things I don't agree with. I hate most of the people here. I do love the layout of the land and the mountain trails that I go hiking on. However, I'm not the Lorax. I'm not dying for the trees. Story 40. American here. Largest military budget in the world but can't provide universal health care or ensure people get paid a living wage. Not a country worth dying for. I would protect my family.